That's a nice thing.
Because that is sacred time. The parade is sacred time.
Yeah, it's gotten very kind of schwach now, kind of commercially, and
Because,
they do all these musical numbers now that.
well, they did two things. First, they had sponsored maneuvers.
Yeah.
At the beginning, it was all, there's a turkey.
Yeah, Woody Woodpecker, right? Yeah.
Woody Woodpecker. Then it became sponsored. Then they had the musical numbers who didn't walk in the parade. You don't know this from the TV.
No.
They just come out from the store, do their thing,
And then disappear.
go back into the store. That was the other thing they did. She died this year, Jeannie McFadden, who ran the parade for 100 million years.
Really?
But we used to go at 3 in the morning, get made up like clowns.
That's
walk
great.
the parade.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was a real thing.
Wow.
There aren't that many times where,
America stops to be together.
and becomes bonded.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
How many secular holidays are there in America?
That's why I like Halloween. That's one of them. Thanksgiving is the sacred one. Yeah.
Because the rest are pseudo-Christmas,
Yeah, but this one is a serious holiday. Yeah.
Halloween. They're pseudo-Christmas.
Super Bowl Sunday.
But Thanksgiving's the only one without a historical connection.
Main entrance now. The guard gate is going to move
Yeah. Yeah.
to this.
No, to the side. To the the door in Glazer that goes out to Densmore.
Yes.
That's going to be the door. Yeah.
Oh, I like walking out and seeing the guard from my house.
Well, the guard will be there, but it'll just be up the street. Yeah.
So he wrestled with my son.
All right.
And Chadasrei Yiladam
Dina in a box.
in a box.
Dina in a box. How you doing, Boychik? I want to talk about the shadow, the Jungian idea of the shadow.
Whose shadow?
Our shadow, the Jewish people's shadow.
Who's the shadow?
All right, good afternoon, good morning. Happy Thanksgiving. It's really good to be together. Thank you for coming. It's a holiday weekend, and if you decided to come to Shul Shabbos on a holiday weekend, you get to qualify for the hardcore. So you're the people here at 3 o'clock on Yom Kippur afternoon when our heads are pounding and our bellies are rumbling and we smell like heck, and you're still davening. You are hardcore. This is hardcore Judaism. So thank you for coming. I hope everybody had a lovely, lovely holiday with family. As the rabbi said, this is a unique holiday because it's thoroughly American, and at the same time, it partakes of something transcendent and sacred. And that's a difficult thing, because as Americans, we tend to want to shy away from any expressions of collective faith. We leave faith to the individual. But this one, because it tells the story, it's the narrative. It's the American narrative. And the American narrative is a narrative that all of us embrace, no matter where you came from and when you got here, right? No matter when you got here, you sat at the table on Thursday evening in front of a heaping huge turkey filled with stuffing and sweet potatoes with marshmallows on top, right? And cornbread and green beans floating in some sort of gray gelatinous solution, and pumpkin pie and pecan pie, and you recited the American Haggadah, right? The American Haggadah is in the year 1620. Well, you might use a different nigun because you might be Sephardic, but that's okay. In the year 1620, our pilgrim ancestors fled away from tyranny in England and crossed the mighty Atlantic in a tiny boat called the Mayflower. And they arrived in Plymouth, Massachusetts in November, which then and now is not a place you want to be in November. And they were starving and dying of dysentery. Well, that part I put in, but that's a midrash, actually. And out of the bush came the friendly natives and showed them how to survive on this continent. And so a year later, they had a big feast, And they gave thanks to God for the bounty of this continent and the gifts of this wonderful place and the freedoms we all enjoy. And so we say, Amen. Don't you all do that? Here comes the... Well, there is another version, you know. There are Orthodox, conservative, and Reform versions of that story. But that story is such a powerful story. First of all, what's really interesting about that story is it true? Well, first of all, yes, there were a group of people in 1620 who came across the ocean in a boat called the Mayflower, and apparently they were given assistance by the natives, and apparently they survived and had a meal the following year. Okay? What's left out of the story is that they said grace, washed the dishes, slaughtered the Indians, and stole the continent. We forgot that part, you know. But that's not, you see, the interesting thing is that even though it might, and by the way, were your ancestors on that boat? Well, now that's the point, you see. To call yourself an American is to tell that story in the first person. My ancestors were in Lithuania or Russia or Romania. And by the way, had some miracle occurred and they were trans-teleported to the Plymouth colony, would the Plymouth people have let us in?
No, because they didn't believe in religious.
Well, yeah, I mean, they believed in religious liberty for themselves, but were loath to share it with people like us. Now, that doesn't matter, because you see, what makes the story true is not the historical factuality of the story. What makes the story true is that it defines the values of the community that tells it. We all came from places of tyranny to a place of freedom. We all came by a perilous journey. Gesundheit. We all came and found difficulty but persisted with faith and with strength. We all found assistance. By the way, we all found assistance from those who were here before us, right? We all gave thanks for the bounty of this place. And the most important part of the story is what we call them. Incidentally, they didn't call themselves this. We call them this. We don't call them refugees, although they were. We don't call them immigrants, although they were. We certainly don't call them illegal immigrants, right? Right? Although they were, right? I mean, there's a very funny cartoon that my dad used to whip out every holiday from the New Yorker, and it shows two Native Americans, two Indians, on a hillside watching the boat dock in the harbor, and one says to the other, he says, "You think we should let them land?" And the other says, "Yeah, what harm could they do?" You know, you know. I mean, you know, it's just a silly. But we call them pilgrims. That is a very significant appellation. Why? What is a pilgrim? What is a pilgrimage? Now, a trip from here to there is a trip. There are all kinds of reasons and ways to describe a trip. It can be a tourist venture. It can be a business trip. It can be relocation. But it's a pilgrimage, which means it's a journey from a place of lesser sanctity to a place of greater sanctity. And that's very important, because the notion is that they came here as a religious journey, and they found providence, they found God in this place, which characterizes the American project. We have this deep sense of the transcendent importance of what we are and what we do. It's part of the American character. When we go to war, it's not just to go defeat a bad guy, it's to defend God-given rights of freedom. There's a deep sense of the religiosity that's deeply at the heart of this country. So this event, this holiday, is a very important holiday. And the fact, I mean, listen, as a Jew, one of the reasons why we feel so comfortable in this country is because that story and our story are congruent. Well, it had to be, because they read the Bible. That's where they got the story from. They saw themselves as we did, as escaping slaves. They saw England as Egypt. They saw America as the promised land. And they had a Seder, right? And it's a damn good thing they chose a turkey. Because if they'd chosen a ham, we'd been screwed, you know? Seriously. Now, if you have a kosher turkey, it costs you 4 times as much, but we can participate fully in this American right and tell the story in the first person. And one of the reasons why we feel so comfortable in this democracy is because its core story and our core story are congruent. And that's a big difference than any other diaspora that we've ever inhabited. We've lived in good diasporas before. But this diaspora is unique because its core narrative is our narrative. It was borrowed from us. Hi, come on in. We'll find you a spot. Everybody move over. Fine. Mark, can I get one of those chairs maybe for Sherry and for Mickey? Oh, yeah, we got chairs. We got places over here. Thank you. Hey, Mick. Nice to see you there. It's good to see you. Hey, Bubby. No. It's good. We're just wrapping on Thanksgiving here. Good. Thank you so much. So this is a very important, it's an important holiday. I gave a talk about this some years ago, but it wasn't, and one of the funny things is this idea that, so the day after Thanksgiving is the biggest shopping day of the year. In some ways, that's transgressive. Because, no, seriously, because the whole notion of gratitude is to be able to say, I have enough, dayenu. I have enough. That's what you sit at the table and you say, I'm grateful for the bounty that's come my way, the gifts of this place, and I have enough. And more will not make me more. More stuff will not make me more. I have enough, and so that should be, we should have it shouldn't be Black Friday, it should be a day of continued gratitude. We should all go do good things for each other on that day. But instead you run to the mall to get a 99-inch flat screen, high-def 4G television set, because not that there's anything on, but just that you'll have it, because it's so cheap. I was listening to the radio yesterday. You said, I bought this and I bought that and I saved so much money. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, really? Okay, good enough. So that's a little incongruent, but the holiday is an important holiday. So welcome. It's nice to see you all. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome back. So yesterday was Black Friday, today's Black Sabbath, right? Sabbath. Black Shabbos. Cyber Monday, Black Sabbath. Yeah, it's Ozzy Osbourne's holiday.
What do they call the day that the credit cards come due?
Yeah, that's called Oy vey, the day of reckoning. But that doesn't happen until January, right? Anyway, I was at the mall yesterday. You all go to the mall? Oh, come on. It was great.
You can't admit that.
I go. It's a ritual. Listen, if I'm going to do Thanksgiving on Thursday night, I'm going to the mall on Black Friday. It's a ritual. It's no harder to park there than it is to park at the shul on Rosh Hashanah, I go. I walk around. I love. That's beautiful. I mean, the decorations are beautiful. The kids are running around. It's a beautiful thing, and it's just a glorious thing. And there's a lot of joy, and people carrying out the Zohar in these bags. It's a machaya.
And the Santa, you enjoy that?
Oh, I love that.
Santa.
Don't you love Santa?
I love it.
You would make a good Santa.
Not so much Santa, but the baby Jesus.
Mark, you could, if with a beard, I think.
Without a doubt.
I think you
go
could.
like that.
I'm telling you.
I come here to keep myself from just.
I know.
going over the cliff.
I know that.
Look at the comparison.
You
They
know
get the trees.
Yeah.
They get the ham. They get the lobsters. We get
Latkes.
latkes and dreidel. They have Handel's Messiah. I mean, really.
You have Maoist Sur,
We
right?
got nothing.
Yeah.
They wiped us out on marketing.
It's
completely.
true.
We're terrible.
Yeah, but the secret is we gave it to them, right? It was all invented by Macy's and Kimball's, right? There was a beautiful, beautiful Christian festival celebrating the birth of the Lord. The Redeemer comes into the world in a manger, in a barn, with complete and utter poverty. And the contrast between his redemptive role and the utter poverty that he was doing is a beautiful statement of hope. And we came along and commodified it, and we wrote all those wonderful songs, It's just top 10 Christmas songs are all written by Jews, right? Right? Silver bells and...
White Christmas.
How many of you have ever been in a one-horse open sleigh? Right? Have you really? You really have? Have you really? I'm impressed. Have you really? Two. Oh, all right, yeah. Giddy up, giddy up. I never. I live.
Chestnuts roasting on the open fire?
Yeah,
Whoever did that?
in New York, on Fifth Avenue. Yeah, on Fifth Avenue, right.
By the way, Rabbi,
Anyway, let's do Torah. Come
by
on.
the way,
Let's do some Torah. Let's do some Torah. Yeah, Mark. I'm having too much fun. Go ahead.
Another story of miracle last Saturday.
Yeah.
When UCLA beat USC.
Yeah. And he asked for a bracha last
I
night.
did ask for a bracha, but we won without the bracha.
No, you got the bracha.
We got it from the Pilgrims.
You won without the bracha. And without a defense, too. I mean, that was... Did you... Last night, I didn't see this game, but I saw the report this morning that the University of Oklahoma played the University of West Virginia, and the final score was 56-53 or something. A tough defensive battle, right? Yeah, well, for those of you who are UCLA fans, this is a very big deal. This is redemption, right?
now both of them won't be playing in post.
No, actually, the truth is that they're both happy. Everybody walked out happy. UCLA went out happy because they were redeemed, they won. And the SC people wanted to get rid of the coach, and this is going to do it. So they'll be looking for a new coach. Do you have a hand? Yeah, I'm
The
sorry.
reason
I'm
that-
just schmoozing. I'm
The
going to get to
reason
the
that there
Torah.
was a birth in the manger is
Yeah.
that Airbnb blocked the
No,
historic city.
stop that, stop that, stop that.
They did.
It's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful, the contrast between the poverty and the rejection of the community. Well, we'll look at it. I think we did it one year. Did we do a Christmas? We'll do a Christmas session one year. I'll do the Christmas story with you. It's actually the reason why it's interesting for us, of course, besides that we'd like to understand our neighbor's faith, is because remember that this was a Jewish story when it was written by Jews for Jews and an answer to a great Jewish question, right? The temple was destroyed and people were looking for an answer for how do you continue as God's people without the principal institution. The rabbis of the Talmud created Talmudic Judaism. But the Christian fathers, who were living literally next door, came with a different answer. And the different answer was that they embraced Jesus of Nazareth as the Messiah who was stopped in his tracks, who was killed. And then, so they tell the story, and they use Jewish materials to tell the story. Well, I can show you this. That the stories of Jesus' birth are the stories of Moses' birth and Abraham's birth in the Midrash. That the two Midrash, both traditions borrowed from the same mythic materials. And I'll show this to you when we get closer to Christmas. Okay, we'll do a Christmas night. Because it's a very, very interesting way to see how the holiday developed in its history, in its historical setting. All right, we are on page 198, if that's okay. I want to wish everybody good Shabbos, and thanks for coming. This is the third in a trilogy, okay? This is the third in a trilogy about Father Jacob. Father Jacob, you want to pass a few Humashim around? I think there's a few there. Father Jacob, we meet him 2 weeks ago in his youth, and we get a glimpse of his character. There's someone in the back needs one there. So we meet him in his youth, and we get a glimpse of his character. And then in the second part of the trilogy, that was Toldot. In Vayetze, he goes on his journey. And the journey is going to confront him with the truth of his character, and he's going to grow. He's going to develop. And now he's coming back. Vayishlach, which is today's Torah portion, is the third episode. Right? When you have a trilogy in literature, so you have thesis, antithesis, synthesis. You have a character, you have the journey that changes and modifies and grows the character, and then you have a synthesis in which the new character emerges. So what you're going to expect as you open this book, this week's Torah portion, it's the third in a row, is this time he's going to become the patriarch we expect him to be. 2 weeks ago when we first met him, he was not a patriarch, if not a very nice person at all. Conniving, trickster, taking, you manipulating, cheating, just everything that you would expect, everything that you wouldn't want in an ancestor. And then he goes on the road, and everything that he did to others happens to him. And now he's coming back, and you expect, now he's going to learn. Now he's going to become the man that we expect him to be. And I'll give you the hint. What happens is that's not exactly what happens. It's not exactly what happens. It's the way I would have written it if I were writing it. I'd have written it that way. I would have made Jacob into a mensch. And there are certain Torah commentaries, certain midrashim. If you read, for example, the Orthodox Art Scroll Torah, they flatten out the story and make him into a mensch. And they reinterpret everything he does into righteousness. But I don't see it here. I think that Torah is too honest about the complexity of human character to be able to say it's all resolved. People just don't change that way. He doesn't change that way. And what's more important is that everything we say about him is us. Because we are B'nai Yisrael. So we're not just talking about a literary character and how he changes or doesn't change, how his character develops or doesn't develop. He's us. This is a mirror. This is a reflection of us. Now, consider for a moment why we tell stories. We tell stories, first of all, because they're entertaining. And these stories are so entertaining. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up. I guess you could, but it's so entertaining. You know, he bargains for the girl he loves and wakes up with the sister. And I mean, don't try this at home, but it's such a great story, you know. And now he's going to come back and meet the brother that he stole from, and the brother's going to try to... It's a great story. That's one reason you tell stories. A second reason you tell stories is because it's your purported history. I mean, we talk about the Thanksgiving story, right? We tell the Thanksgiving story because it's our history. It doesn't have to be the factual history. It's the history as we wanted it to be, right? Thanksgiving is the history we wanted it to be because it captures the values that we want to ascribe to ourselves. That's the history that we tell. Third, another reason you tell a story is because it's a sort of self-reflection of who I am. It's a mirror before my own character. Think about this. Don't tell this out loud, but think about the story you tell your therapist. When you tell a therapist the story, what are you doing? You're revealing, you're saying, you know, I'm troubled, I'm blocked, I'm unhappy, I'm stymied. And the person says, well, tell me the story. And you start to tell the story. And what the story does is reveal more about yourself than you think you're revealing. That's why Freud discovered the talking cure. Because the more you tell, you don't even know that you're telling the therapist everything he or she needs to know to heal you. But you're actually revealing more about yourself. I think this story partakes of all of these things, right? It certainly is a great story. It certainly is our purported history. But I think this is a kind of therapy. I think this is about us. And we're talking about ourselves. And that we're talking about something about ourselves which we normally don't want to talk about. We normally don't want to talk about, right? And what I'm going to suggest is that we Jews have a dark side. And this Torah portion, this set of Torah portions, is about the dark side of the Jewish people. And this is our way of confronting our moral and spiritual failure and to try to come to terms with it so we can heal ourselves. It's therapy. This is a kind of therapy, right? So if anybody here is a therapist, I'm going to need your help today because we're going to talk about Jung and a couple of good therapeutic ideas. One of the things you noticed about the Jacob stories is they all happen at night. All the good things in this story happen at night, right? We opened the story 2 weeks ago with Jacob and Esau in the womb. It's dark. And because it's dark in the womb, we don't know who the firstborn's going to be. They're wrestling. They're contending with each other, and then they're born, right? And then he's cooking this meal, and Esau comes in, and Esau is blinded by his hunger, and Jacob takes advantage of that. And then Dad wants to bless his sons, so he takes advantage of Dad's blindness in the dark and steals the birthright and the blessing from his brother, right? And then he goes off to he leaves home, and he has that dream in the dark, the dream of the ladder. You know what I'm talking about? And then he shows up, and he meets Rachel, falls crazy in love with her. 7 years go by. It's his wedding night, and lo and behold, she's transformed into Leah, right? It all happens at night, and it's going to continue. Why are all these stories happening at night? What happens at night? Something is concealed. There's something about him which is concealed that he doesn't know, that he doesn't want to recognize about himself, right? I want to suggest there's a really interesting idea in the psychology of Carl Jung called the shadow. The shadow is that part of ourselves where we dump all the stuff about ourselves we don't like, right? Jealousies and impulses and desires and aggressiveness and hostility and all the parts of yourself you don't like, you dump it in a box called the shadow. And you deny that it exists. Everyone thinks he's a nice person. Everyone thinks he's a nice person. There's not very many people, maybe Charles Manson. But even Adolf Eichmann, when Hannah Arendt wrote her story about Adolf Eichmann, she said, he thinks he's a nice person. Right? Like this vicious, horrible Nazi. He says, I'm a nice guy. I have Jewish friends. He said that. He said that in court. What?
Some of my best friends.
Well, no, he didn't say that. But he said he had Jewish friends. You know, he's a nice guy. He went to work, and then he come home, and he petted the dog and played with his kids and was nice to his wife and read the paper and, you know, got up in the morning and killed Jews and went back and, you know. I mean, but everyone thinks it because we take all of the parts of ourselves we don't like and we put them in a box called the shadow. And we keep that box under wraps. Now, the problem is that box is still us. So it's filled with all kinds of energy. And if you don't know it's there, it tends to come and bite you every now and again. Right? You ever gotten angry and you couldn't figure out why I just lost it in that moment? You ever have that experience or something just came out of nowhere? You know, and you say, what? That's your shadow. I want you to look at the shadow of Jacob. First of all, he's a twin, so there's already another one who looks a lot like him. And I want you to look at the shadow of Jacob and ask, what's going on here? Okay? All right, so someone had a question a moment ago. I think successfully stifled it. Bruce.
Yeah, I was just going to say that you were talking about the flattening of Jacob.
Yeah.
But the guy who really gets flattened, I think, in these stories is Esau.
Yeah.
Because in the Middle Ages, I think they had a need to make it Jacob good, Esau bad.
Not the Middle Ages, during the rabbinic period, Esau becomes the living symbol of Rome.
But there's very little in the text.
Yeah.
I think maybe nothing in the text.
Oh, you can
that
even make the
justifies
opposite
that.
case. You can say that there's much to be admired in Esau. Right? He loved his dad. He was loyal to the family. He was simple-minded, okay? But there was something about Esau that's kind of admirable. His just ferocious, fierce, animalistic loyalty to the family, his willingness to do anything for his father, right?
Admirable and sad, the way he cries out when he realizes he's been tricked for
Yeah.
his father's blessing.
Right. He's been that's a very critical moment.
Bless me too.
Yeah, bless me too. Don't you have another blessing for me? Don't you have a blessing for me? And you feel sorry for him. You feel sorry for him, and you also ask yourself this question. Who told Isaac that he only had one blessing? Who told Isaac that he only had one blessing? This is, by the way, the structure of the first part of the Torah, right? It's 7 brothers' stories. It's Cain and Abel, the sons of Noah, Abraham and his brother's dead, so it's Lot, his brother's son, right? Isaac and Ishmael, Jacob and Esau, Joseph and his brothers, and Moses and Aaron. Okay? Sigmund Freud said that the principal psychological dynamic that causes human development is the Oedipal complex, which is your relationship with your opposite gender parent. The Bible says parents are important, but sibling relationships are more important. You become the people you are through your relationship to your siblings. And the dynamic that the Torah comes back to again and again and again, literally ad nauseum, is this idea of 2 brothers, 1 blessing. 2 brothers, 1 blessing. And you keep asking yourself the question, huh? Right? Why? Why do you think you only have one blessing? Why can't two brothers each have a blessing? I mean, remember all the way back to the Cain and Abel story, right? They each bring an offering to God, and God pays attention to Abel's, but not to Cain's. And Cain gets insanely jealous, right? And God says, why are you so angry? Well, why'd you put him in that position to begin with, right? But more than that, why? That's the dynamic. Why can't each of us feel that we have a place? Why do we have to compete with each other? Now, where did that come from? I'll suggest two places where that comes from, right? Three places. One, it's natural to human families. Anybody who have brothers, my dad raised 4 sons, so we fought a little bit, right, Dad? Right. Just a little. Yeah. That's what happens in families. You fight. That's number one. Number two, remember that at a certain point, a critical point in the history of the Jewish people, the kingdom of Israel split into two. The northern kingdom was Israel, capitaled in Samaria, and the southern kingdom was Judea, capitaled in Jerusalem. And they were rivals with each other. So this is a political tale. The question is, Hine matovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Can we get along? We who are supposed to be brothers, can't we get along? How do we reconcile with each other? And the third piece of it, I would suggest, so you agree, is this is a fatal flaw of monotheism. The idea of monotheism is supposed to be inclusive, but you can use monotheism as a tool to beat your brother over the head and say, one God, one blessing, it's mine, damn it. And this is a fatal flaw, a misunderstanding, a misinterpretation, a misapplication of monotheism. And the Torah is acutely aware that we're capable of this, of using monotheism as a weapon. And this is part of what it's warning us against. So when we meet Esau, you're going to like Esau. Only the Midrash hates him because they turn him into Rome. But you're going to find something good in Esau. And I'm going to ask you this question. What are the parts of Esau that Jacob needs to learn? Jacob needs to learn something from Esau. Esau, in some ways, is the projection of Jacob's shadow. There's qualities of his character that he needs to learn. His father understood this. Remember? When Jacob walks into the blind father, after 3 rounds of, who are you? I'm your son. Who are you really? I'm really your son. No, really, who are you? I'm your son, Esau. What does Isaac say to him? The hands are the hands of Esau, but the voice is the voice of, which means you're not whole. You need to amalgamate these two characters into one in order to become whole. There's something missing in you, boy, and you're not going to be whole. I'll give you the blessing, but you got to go in the world and find your missing part, and it's what your brother owns. That's the missing gap to your character, and your brother owns it if you're smart enough to learn it from him. That's what we're going to see in just a second. So you're right about Esau, right? Hi, Michael.
Yeah. I think that there are a couple of elements that you already touched on. Number one is Jacob tends to remain transactional through his whole life.
Yeah.
He even bargains with God. If you give me this, if you give me that, you're my God.
Yeah.
It's always if.
Yeah.
Even almost to the end. Whereas Esau, who has left the family and has gone off to live his own life and learn about life himself, he's the one at the end who turns out to be the moderator. He's the one who turns out to be, who says, everything's okay, we can go, our lives have changed, I've changed.
Yeah.
So you see an arc to Esau's character which is very complete,
Yeah.
whereas the arc of Jacob's character continually breaks.
Yeah. Where did Esau learn that? Where did Esau go?
He went to Hagar.
Esau goes to live with Ishmael.
Yeah.
During the time that Jacob is in Haran, Esau goes to find his uncle Ishmael. So now just consider that for a minute. The two rejected brothers, right? The uncle and the nephew, both of whom feel the pushback of the rejection. They're the ones who bond with each other, and that's where Esau learns something about wholeness, about what it means to be whole. I want to
I
just...
have a question.
Yeah, okay, yeah, go ahead.
Why does Rebecca get off the hook when she was the one that suggested that Jacob do this and provided him with
Does she
everything
get off
he
the
needed?
hook? Does she get off the hook? Tell me that she get. What makes you think she gets off the hook? There's no lightning bolt. But what happens to Rebecca? She loses both of her sons, right? Jacob
All the blame goes to Jacob.
Yeah,
for this.
but he, because he has agency. But Rebecca is punished because she loses both of her boys, right? Jacob is going to leave. She's never going to see him again. She disappears from history, right? So she's never going to see him again. And Esau is probably not going to be real close to his mom for the rest of his life, having lost the blessing and birthright through her machinations.
Jacob stole it when she...
Yeah, all right, she's part of it too. I'm trying to be nice to the women in the room, because the Bible it's too easy to blame women's machinations and manipulations for the sins of men. You think so? All right, fair enough. That's fair. That's fair. Remember when Jacob leaves? When Jacob leaves, he has this dream, right? If you have a minute, put your finger here and come back with me to Vayishlach last week, 167. So he has this dream. God standing next to him with a stairway to heaven, because he listened to a lot of Led Zeppelin, so. And God says, I'm the Lord, I'm 167, God of your father Abraham, God of Isaac. The ground on which you're lying, I'll assign your offspring. Your descendants shall be like the dust of the earth. You'll spread everywhere. Everyone will bless them by you. Remember, I'm with you. I'll protect you wherever you go. And I will bring you back to this land. Vahashivoticha el ha'adama hazot. Got that? I'll bring you home. In what condition? It doesn't say. It's, I'll bring you home. I'll bring you home, right? So Jacob wakes up and he says, Izoi, there's God in this place, right? How awesome is this place? And then he makes, Michael suggests a transactional vow. It's on page 168, verse 20. Jacob made a vow. Yidor Yaakov neder lemor. If God remains with me and he protects me on the journey that I'm making, right? And gives me bread to eat and clothing to wear. And look at the next phrase. And if I return safe, right? Right? It's in Hebrew, it's Vishavti bishalom el beit avi. God said, Hashivoticha, I will bring you back to this place. And Jacob makes the vow and he says, bring me back bishalom. What is bishalom?
In one piece.
In one piece, right. Right, that's actually good, that's good. Right, bring me back whole. The question is, how is he going to achieve wholeness? That's the question. He didn't know that. He revealed something that he revealed more than he knew. Because it's a question of how are you going to gain wholeness? How does a person gain wholeness in life? You go into the world as a crazy adolescent filled with desires and needs and grasping, manipulating, scratching, and how do you come back? How do you grow up? Right? I'm interested in how, especially men, because men are taught to fight for everything. And how do you grow into a mensch? Right? How do you grow up? So let's go back to our page now. Let's see what happens. So he's about to meet his brother. God told him to leave. He picks up his wife and all of his kids, and they're starting to go. And he's meeting his brother. Jacob sent messengers ahead to his brother. Thus shall you say to my lord Esau, thus says your servant Jacob, I stayed with Laban and remained until now. I've acquired cattle, asses, sheep, male and female slaves. I sent this message to my lord. The messenger returned saying, we came to your brother Esau. Guess what? Good luck. He himself is coming to see you. And there are 400 men with him. That's not Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. That's not a band. That's not a welcome home, dear brother. Why do you bring 400 men with you? To fight. That's an army, right? And Jacob was greatly frightened. In his anxiety, right, which is Vayichatz, right? Vayitzerlo, And he was scared, right? So what is he going to do? What's he going to do? He's going to be Jacob. What's Jacob's move whenever he's in trouble?
Deny.
What? Deny, connive, evade, manipulate, wiggle, So what is he going to do? He divided the people and the flocks and the herds into two camps, thinking if Esau comes to one camp and attacks, the other camp may escape.
But he's not stupid to go and confront 400 people without having a plan.
Yeah, but tell me, do you think this is a plan? I mean, just, you think it's a plan? You like it? All right. And then he makes the prayer, right? O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, O Lord who said, return to your native land and I'll deal bountifully with you.
Which God didn't say, by the way.
Right. I'm unworthy. Katonti mikola chasidim. I'm unworthy of all the kindness that you've steadfastly shown me. Does that show some kind of humility, or is this still conniving?
It's still conniving.
You think it's conniving? Okay. Anyone want to?
Changing the bracha.
Anyone want to change? Want to speak for Jacob?
Wait a second.
No, yeah. Okay.
We can't say that, when he says I'm unworthy, doesn't that have to imply humility?
No.
Wait a second. As our, without saying.
Douglas, doing the micro.
Without saying a name, has somebody who has achieved high status in this country ever said, I'm unworthy of something?
No. And now I am to come two camps. Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau. I fear he may come and strike me down, mother and children alike. You've said I'll deal bountifully with you and your offspring, etc. And then he selects a bribe. Right? What are you going to give to him? Everything. Like, he's got all these animals. So if you turn the page, it's a veritable farm, right? Goats, rams, ewes, camels, cows, bulls, he-asses, she-asses, a whole bunch of stuff. And he sends it in these groups, right? He put these in charge of his servants drove by drove. What does that mean?
It's a nice touch.
Right, so each servant's going to show up with another gift, right?
It's the Ginzu steak knife thing.
It's the, what's that?
But wait, there's more.
Wait, there's more, right. If you like the sheep, right? And then when my brother meets you and says, whose man are you, where are you going, and whose animals are these, you will say, your servant Jacob's, they're a gift sent to my lord Esau, and Jacob himself is right behind us. All right, so we have the splitting of the camp, we have the prayer to God, and now we have the bribe. Any of this going to work?
Wait a minute, it says here that he ordered the third one. Who's the third one? I thought there were two camps. What is he?
No, it's not. These are the gifts that he's sending. The droves are the gifts, right? Where do you see a third one? He's sending these waves. He's sending these waves of gifts, right? Yeah, he's sending these waves of gifts, right? The first wave is sheep, and the second wave is rams, and the third wave is bulls and cows, and the next wave is camels, and the next giraffes, and tigers, and lions, and bears. Oh my! I mean, it's a circus. It's Cirque du Soleil. He's sending these waves of animals at his brother, hoping that his brother would say, oh, "Okay, fine, enough." Each one is going to impress him more, and at a certain point he'll say, okay, enough. Right? What is he hoping for? What's the psychology of this bribe? What did Jacob take from Esau?
Birthright.
His birthright and his blessing. What is he trying to do now? Buy him. Is there a price for the birthright and the blessing?
Absolutely.
Is there? Mark thinks there is.
Except he has to fight him.
Well, we'll get to that. Wait. We'll get that in a second. This is part of this mentality that I can buy you. I can buy God. I try to buy God. Now I'm going to try to buy my brother. And then what happens? That same night he arose, and taking his 2 wives, his 2 maidservants, and his 11 kids, we'll come back to that, and he crossed the ford of the Yavok. After taking them across the stream, he sent across all of his possessions. And he was left alone. So he puts everybody on the other side of the river, And he stays on the far side of the river just for the night, just to sort of meditate on what's going on, right? Now, what is his MO whenever he meets trouble? Manipulate, right? Manipulate. Bribe, handle, evade, manipulate. And all of a sudden, he's facing a circumstance he can't manipulate his way out of. So we get an incident here. Going out from the land, he saw this dream with this ladder. Now coming back, meeting his brother, he has an equally weird incident. And the Torah is completely opaque. It's completely opaque. It doesn't tell us anything. It just says, a man wrestled with him until the break of dawn. What? First you told me that he was alone. Now there's a guy. What? Really? Right. So what happens? And when he saw that he had not prevailed against him, how many he's and hims are in that sentence? And can you figure out who the he's and hims are there? Can you figure out who the he's and hims are? Really? Who the he's and hims? When he saw that he had not prevailed against him. Is that the guy couldn't prevail against Yaakov, or Yaakov couldn't prevail against the guy?
But the hero is Yaakov.
And what do you mean he's wrestling? What do you mean? Like, he's all by himself and all of a sudden some guy shows up and starts, it's not like he got mugged. Yeah, that I can understand. He took his wallet. But he's wrestling all night, they're wrestling? What is going on?
Esau is a prince.
Wait, hang on a minute. Hang on. Just first, I'll let you answer, but first I want to enjoy the ambiguity of it, okay? Can we do that? I don't know. Hardly. Right? So he wrenched Jacob's hip at its socket so that the socket of his hip was strained. As he wrestled with him, Jacob is wounded. Jacob is wounded physically, and it's his hip. And he said, let me go, for dawn is breaking. Who said that? We don't know who it is in Egypt. He said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. Said the other. I mean, this is so opaque. What is your name? He says, Jacob. He says, your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with beings divine and human, and have prevailed. And Jacob said, tell me your name. And he said, don't ask. And he left him there. And then Jacob named the place Peniel, meaning I have seen a divine being face to face, and my life has been preserved. What happened? What is that? What do you think just happened? What is the Bible pointing at? We'll get Rabbi Gelman's interpretation in a moment. But I want you to enjoy. Something weird just happened. What just happened? What is the Bible trying to share with us that's so bizarre? Wait, who's got the microphone? Where's Douglas? So start back over here, and we'll go around. We're going to get a lot of interpretations, because this is too good a story. It's an opaque story on purpose.
I think he's fighting with himself, with his conscience.
Okay. So
And
tell me what he's fighting with.
He realizes he's wrong.
Okay.
And he's fighting with, like, his shadow, his
What-
conscience, his angel, whatever you want to call it.
What does it mean to anyone here a therapist who knows Jung? What does it mean to fight with your shadow? It means to wrestle with that part of yourself which you don't want to acknowledge. What part of himself does he have to come to terms with? Okay. Thank you, Douglas.
The bad part of himself.
His deception, his manipulation, his conniving, his evasion, his inability to see another human being and look him in the eye. It's his inability to see another human being as of any value. Everything is, as Michael said, transactional. It's what I can get out of this person, right? The only person in the world who he truly sees is Rachel. But even she starts whining at him about having a baby, and he realizes she's just him. She's just the female version of him. She did to him what he's done to everybody else. So and why is it wrestling? It's so interesting because normally he evades, right? In wrestling, you can't evade. You can't evade. You can't get away because it's face to face. There's something both violent and erotic about wrestling, right? It's a very interesting metaphor. Yes, Bruce.
I just want to put in a good word for Jacob at this point.
Okay.
While
You've been so good today. You've defended Esau, now you're defending Jacob.
Well,
you're a Gibor Yisrael. This is wonderful.
I just think there's a different interpretation. One interpretation.
Yes.
So the different interpretation is he's prepared militarily.
Yeah.
Right. He's split his camp.
Yeah.
And then he's done all he can think of, as much as he can think of, to try to make things up with his brother. And now he goes and he's all by himself on the other side of the river, and his whole plan goes the wrong way.
Yeah.
But the thing I like about Jacob, and the quality I respect in Jacob, is he doesn't give up, number one. He wrestles all the way until dawn.
Yeah.
And after his whole plan has been messed up, and this thing has showed up out of the blue and completely changed his plans, he says one of the most beautiful lines in the whole Torah, which is, I will not let you go until you bless me.
Right.
He takes the adversity and he turns it into a blessing. And I think that's something to admire in this guy.
Okay. Unless that's the angel who said that. I mean, unless it's the angel.
I think when you look at the text,
I appreciate it.
It's clear that it's Jacob saying
nothing's clear in this story. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But you see, he doesn't come to terms with his brother. He doesn't send a message to his brother saying, I know I hurt you. I know, and I regret the person that I was. There's no tshuva here.
Yes, there is.
No, there's not. There's buying off. There's manipulating. There's handling. There's evading.
Until the rest.
Well, okay, if you want to say the wrestling is the act of tshuva, we'll get you in a minute.
No,
right? Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us.
Conniving.
No. You know me better than that. What's your interpretation? Go ahead.
What?
Give us the interpretation.
All right. So look, the way I follow a friend of mine who was the biggest detective in New York, did more collars than any other guy, ran against de Blasio and got 4 votes, Bo Dietl. And I play golf with him, and he's a friend of mine, and we were on Imus together, and his name is Bo Dietl. So I said, Bo, how could you be the best detective ever in New York, ever? You're not that smart. And he said, yeah, I'm not that smart, but I had a system. I said, really? What's your system? Now, I say this because this has become my system.
Okay.
In my whole life.
Okay, go ahead.
Very complicated life, very sophisticated life. Now it's Bo Dietl. This is the system. He says, when I looked at a case, I said, the way things seem are the way they are. That was my system. If it looked like the husband killed her, the husband killed her. No, maybe he didn't, but I didn't care. I had a system. And basically, if it looked like the husband killed her, he killed her. And that was his way of, and I have realized since Bo Dietl told me that ridiculous system, that it's true. So look at this system through the eyes of Bo Dietl, the great detective. What does it seem like? He's coming back to his brother, right? His brother's a prince of the land.
Right.
What is the main law of the entire culture from whenever to now, which is a stranger coming out of the desert is sacred.
Right.
Well, so you're Esau, and your brother's coming, and you're the prince of the land.
Right.
And you want to kill the little son of a bitch, but you can't do it because you're the prince of the land.
Right.
So what do you do? What do you do?
Yeah.
You arrange a private meeting on the other side of the river to have things out with your brother. The person who attacked him had to be Esau because it's the only thing that makes sense in the story. Esau couldn't do it in the daytime because it was, whoa, he attacked a stranger? The prince of the land attacked a stranger? No, but at night he could do it. And at night, Jacob finally had to prove himself the way men know they have to prove themselves, which is sometimes you just have to fight and see who wins. And this is what happened. In 20 years, Esau, who started out being much stronger, because Jacob's just hanging around the camps, and Esau is out hunting.
Yeah.
In 20 years, Esau is a rich man.
Yeah.
He's turned fat. Jacob has been a shepherd for 21 years, comes back, he's in good shape. So he's strong enough to fight his stronger brother all night long without losing.
Okay.
It is Esau who fights with Jacob. And by changing his name, he takes away the nickname. It's more than a nickname, it's his actual name. The derogation of his name.
Yeah.
He takes it away.
You ever get that piece?
So Jacob means a heel, it means a manipulator. I now name you
Grasper.
The wrestler, the God wrestler.
Yeah.
And he says Peniel, so that when he finally meets Esau in person, he says the same thing. Right. So they both wink, wink, wink. They both know that they've made their peace. But, and I have to say this because next week I'm teaching at Wilshire, so I can't tell you this, but it's about Esau and how it all ties up. The purpose of this whole thing is to show that God is changing the covenant. The 7 that you described, the firstborn is never the one chosen.
Right.
He's always the one cast out. At this point, with Joseph, the one chosen, Joseph, is the one cast out. And here's how it goes. Esau went to Ishmael, you said that.
Right.
He marries a woman named Mahalat, Ishmael's daughter. Ishmael had a son, Neviot. So Mahalat and Ishmael, brother and sister. Esau marries Mahalat. And Neviot is the one who organizes a caravan. Because this, and I worked out all the ages, Ishmael is dying. And he wants to go home to Egypt to die where his mother was. And he has Neviot arrange the caravan. Oh, okay. But because his mother was a slave, the Ishmaelites never dealt in slaves. So he takes with him on the caravan Midianites. They dealt in slaves. So they go out on the way, and they find a little boy in a hole.
In a pit, right.
And they pull him out of the hole, and the Midianites say, we'll sell him to you. Ishmael says, nah, I don't buy slaves. And they said, okay, we'll let him die here. He then sees in the hole where the boy is a colored fabric, a multicolored fabric, which he had heard, because he knew everything happening in Jacob's house through Mahalat.
Right.
But they in Jacob's house knew nothing about Ishmael because of the shame. He said, oh my God, they're selling their brother Joseph. But he couldn't save Joseph and tell him, because then Joseph would say, well, let me go. And if he let him go, they'd already told the false story to the father. They'd have to kill him. So the only thing I can do, he said, is sell him to a safe place in Egypt, Potiphar. But I can't buy him. And that's why there's a confusion in the text about who sold him to Potiphar. In one text, in 39, it says the Midianites, and others the Ishmaelites. No one knew. So in the end, Ishmael is the mechanism through Esau of reconciling the covenant between God and the Jewish people. Now, the one chosen is the one cast out, but the one chosen is not just a person, it's a people.
Okay, good, thank you. Wow. Okay, Douglas? The gentleman in the back in the red yarmulke. All right, so that's one way to read the story.
That's the way. It's like the law of thermodynamics is one way to look at gravity. One way.
Hang on. Yes, please.
So I don't think what I read in there is I don't actually think there was a divine angel.
Okay.
I think he was wrestling with himself.
Okay.
Because where you were talking about who was he talking about? Him, he.
Yeah.
And if you go back and look at, you don't have to look at Jung, but you look at Anna Freud and some of the things that she was talking about with the id and expanding on the id of people.
Yeah.
He says he wrestled with this Holy Spirit. Well, in the if you look back in all the things that are in the Torah,
yes,
everything is simplified. When you have a child and you don't want him to touch a hot pot, you don't explain the dynamics of heat and all. You say don't touch. In the Ten Commandments, we say don't do this, don't do that. We're very simple. All the Torah is very, very simplistic, and we put it in terms that we could understand back then.
Yes.
So, is he fighting a spiritual angel who came down and wrestled with him, or is he sitting there on a stone, contemplating with himself, fighting with himself, wrestling with himself?
Right. So the only thing I would disagree with is I think the Torah is not simple. It's very sophisticated. And so, but I like, see, that's an alternative to the rabbi's interpretation. And I think it echoes back to Bruce's interpretation as well. T.S. Eliot called it the long, dark night of the soul. Okay? He thinks he's going to die in the morning. He has to confront the brother who's sworn to kill him. He has to confront the parts of himself which put him in that situation. And in that one night, he goes back and he thinks back through all of the events that brought him to this night. Right? All of the conniving, the deception, the manipulation, the using people, all of that stuff. And he has to own that. He has to say, yeah, that's me. And I don't like that. And I don't like that part of me. And I have to find a way to pull that out of me. But to pull out the parts of yourself that you don't like is a wound. It hurts. Again, if you've been in therapy and the therapist told you something about yourself which you didn't want to hear, it hurts. And your first response is to say, no, you idiot, what do you know? You know nothing. And you run out of the therapist's office. And then you come back 2 hours later and you say, of course you were right. Of course that's me. And so that's a different way to read it. And I think the Torah is trying to symbolize. So one way to read it is the rabbi's way to read it, where he meets Esau that night. Okay? Rashi says he meets Esau's angel. He meets Esau. Another way to read it is the way you guys read it, which is this is a wrestling with the parts of himself he doesn't want to acknowledge. I'm not a very nice person. I'm a disgusting human being. I can be a disgusting human being. And to confront that, so the image is that it comes and sees you at night. Remember, he's wrestling with his brother in the womb, right? So at night, once again, comes back, this part of himself, it comes back to him. And he has to own it. He has to, that's me. That's the me that I... And so let's see how he changes, okay? Whether it's Esau or whether it's the long, dark night of the soul, okay? Looking up. What an interesting way to start a chapter. Vayisa Yaakov einav. Well, the last thing we were, he was on the other side of the river, and now it says, Vayisa einav. He looked up. Where is he now? He's apparently moved, and he looked up. Now, what do you mean he looked up? Where was he looking before? If danger's coming for you, you try to, I don't want to meet it eye to eye. He looked up, and what does he see? Esau coming. What does he think? What is he thinking right now? Esau means death. He's going to kill me. He's going to kill my wives, my kids, my servants, and steal all my wealth. Wealth is animals. Well, it could be, right. Accompanied by 400 men. He divided the children among Leah, Rachel, the two maids, putting the maids and the children first, Leah and her children next, Rachel and Joseph last. Now, where would you expect him to be? No, you'd expect him to be at the back. Put everybody in front of me. Let them absorb the rage of the man. But instead, what does Jacob do? This shows you that there is a glimmer of character in this man. He himself went on ahead. Now, by the way, went on ahead. What happened the night before? He was wounded. When he went on ahead, how did he walk? With a bad limp, grimacing in pain. This is before Advil was invented. Right? You ever have sciatica, you take a lot of Advil. Right? Advil don't exist yet. God has not given it to us yet. That comes later in Exodus, right? Chapter on Advil. He's grimacing. Who is Esau? For a moment, let's hold on to Rabbi Gelman's. Let's take the other interpretation. Who is Esau expecting to meet? What's Esau thinking right now? If it's not the night before, if they didn't wrestle the night before, who is Esau expecting to meet? Who is he expecting to meet?
A big guy.
No, wait, no. Anyone ever had a grudge? I don't know if you have. In Jewish families, I don't know if your family has this, but we've been known to have grudges in our family. When you ever have a grudge, somebody did something bad to you, and then they go away, and you spend the next 21 years rehearsing it. Every day, that son of a, I can't wait to get my hand.
The guy who did it to you.
Yes, so what is Esau expecting to see?
Jacob as he used to be.
Exactly right. The 17-year-old kid or the 20-year-old kid. And when Esau looks up, what does he see? A 45-year-old guy who's linking, an alta cocker. That's a technical term. It's in Latin. It means a person of advanced years, right? And he's limping. Now, and Esau himself, he's expecting to see the Jacob who stole from him. And what does he see instead? An older guy. And he's limping. He doesn't have nearly the power. When you fantasize about somebody you hate, you make them bigger, right? They become very powerful. Esau's expecting to slay this great, powerful dragon, the man who stole his birthright. And instead, what does he get? This Nebuchadnezzar Jew, who's limping along, There's something like, really? Where's the guy that... And there's one other little piece. Jacob and Esau are twins. Fraternal twins or identical twins, they're brothers. So when Esau looks at Jacob, what does he likely see? Yeah, and when Jacob looks at Esau, what does he likely see? Isn't that, just the moment is such a great moment. Right? He bowed to the ground 7 times until he was near his brother. Esau ran to greet him. Likrato means to encounter him, not to greet him. We still don't know what Esau's intention is. Like the Torah, this is great storytelling, because it's that when the music rises, you don't know what he's going to do, right? He embraced him. You still don't know what he's going to do. You don't know whether he's embracing him to throw a knife in his side, right? And falling on his neck, you still don't know what he's going to do. He kissed him. And he wept. Who wept? They both wept. Why is Esau weeping? Why? No, Esau. Jacob is weeping because he's alive. Why is Esau weeping? Bruce, why is Esau weeping? You were Esau's defense attorney.
Esau's weeping because he has his brother back.
He has a brother back. The one who looks like him. Right? Or is there a moment when you've been harboring this grudge, this rage, this pain, this sense of this gap in your soul all this time, and when you realize, come on, he's just a guy. He's not a monster. He's not a dragon. And he's an old guy, and he's a limping old guy. What am I so angry about? It's this sort of release of tension. It's just this release of tension. And they wept. They weep. It's this beautiful thing, right? And finishing, right? Looking about him, he sees the women and the children. He says, whose are these with you? And he says, the children with whom God has favored your servant. And the maids and the children came forward. They bowed low. Leah and her children bowed low. Joseph, Rachel came forward. And, what? Benjamin's not born yet. She dies in childbirth with Benjamin. He's not born yet. And he asked, what's all this stuff? Like, what did you mean by all this stuff that I met? And he said, to gain my Lord's favor. And Esau says, Bruce, here's your case. I have enough. Yesh li rav, achi. He calls him achi. Yesh li rav, achi. Now that's a really beautiful word, right? Yesh li rav, achi. I have enough because I now have a brother. I have enough, my brother, right? I have a Rav Achi, a great brother. I mean, you can read it all kinds of different ways. It's, again, an ambiguous phrase. Yesh li Rav Achi, I have a great brother. I don't need this stuff, right?
There's one element that we glossed over.
Yeah. It's a lot that we glossed over.
I know, but there's one element that everybody seems to gloss over.
Yeah.
Esau brings 400 people, 400 men with him.
Yeah.
And we assume, a lot of people have assumed in this room, as a matter of fact, that this is a show of force.
Yeah, I assume that.
I don't believe it's a show of force.
How come, Michael?
I think Esau is bringing these 400 men to show to his brother Jacob, look, as the end implicates.
Yeah.
Look what I have done with my life.
Yeah.
I have grown. You mentioned the prince of the land. I'm a prince of the land.
Right.
You know, I have everything I need, and now you've come to complete it.
That's nice. That's nice. I like that too.
But there's no resolution in Michael's theory.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
And Esau says, I've got enough.
That's not what the source of the problem was. The problem was that he got cheated by his brother. And they never worked that out unless they already wrestled the night before. Well, I miss your point, but you have not had the pleasure of understanding it.
As I said, there's certain character traits that there's certain character traits that pulpit rabbis have to get in order to be successful. That's the shadow. Give Michael the microphone. I want to hear this. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. It's good. It's good. It's very good. No.
The arc of Esau's life
He's good.
is completed. Once that happens, he doesn't need to say anything else again. He says, I have made it. I don't need all the stuff that you're trying to give me. I don't even need to go with you to your land. I am an individual, and this is very important. He has individuated himself from his brother.
Yeah. That's the moment.
If it's about stuff, you're right.
Okay. All right.
It's never about stuff.
No, it's not about stuff. It's not about stuff. It's
Their fight had to be resolved.
All right. That's your interpretation.
It's not resolved by him getting rich.
No. It's not. He doesn't need to carry the grudge anymore.
He got cheated by his brother.
Yeah, but you.
Get rid of that.
Yeah, you can. That's the
Only
point.
if you do it with your brother.
So here's my case.
Not just by getting.
You're right. I'm not disagreeing with that point.
Did you hear that? It's both of us together now, Michael.
Riches or money or anything else, it has to do with a mindset.
Right.
Right, and this is, to me, not just a story about a character, and not even a patriarch. This is a story to the Jewish people about their own internal character. Right? To carry the grudge is going to kill you. Right? To carry the rage is going to kill you. To carry the sense, the gap in your soul that something was taken from me and I want it back, that's going to kill us. There was a time when the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom were war with each other. I don't know if you know this, but sometimes Jews argue with each other. Right? And and what the Torah is trying to say to you is, you don't understand. If you have a point, then argue the point. But the rage of the argument becomes a narcotic. You know, the rage of the sense of deprivation becomes a drug, and you live off the anger of that. You live off the anger of your own condition, and that's not healthy. That's what the Torah is. You've got to reconnect. And you've got to bring back into yourself the parts of yourself which put you into that position to begin with. And there are parts of us which, as a people, we'd like to think of ourselves as ethically exalted. And sometimes...
Would you call your uncle Mickey and
Yeah, no. Your brother. No, my brothers, we had dinner last night with we figured it out. You know, the four of us figured it out. No, that's different. But the four of us figured it out.
We'll deal with
Farzan, please.
I think each of Esau and Jacob have reached the blessing. Esau appears to have the power because he's leading 400 men. And Jacob appears to have a lot of wealth and his family, which is a different type of blessing. So they have both reached blessings.
Yes.
And it's easier to make friends again.
Yes. They both have blessings. That's what Michael was saying. You're exactly right. I'm going to just suggest one little piece I said a moment ago. He's an old man and he's limping. What Esau sees is something he never saw in Jacob. Jacob is vulnerable. He could never see Jacob. He always imagined Jacob as this supernatural, transcendent force that just stole from him all that he valued. And all of a sudden he sees he's just a guy and he's vulnerable. Jacob, because he takes in his own shadow, is able to reveal to Esau his vulnerability. The limp is part of the story. And the vulnerability allows Esau to say, what am I so angry at you for? It's not good to be angry at you, right? The psalmist understood this, right? And the psalmist put in the book of Psalms, Hine matovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. How precious and rare it is that brothers can figure it out and find their way to each other. Next week, we start the most sophisticated brother story of all, which is the Joseph story. Quickly, before you go, a quick announcement. So following Torah study, you're welcome to come join us for prayers and then lunch and then Parsha group this afternoon. Wednesday night, we continue with College of Jewish Studies, and our guest is Rabbi Bradley Artson from the AJU. He's teaching us something called process theology. It's a fascinating theology. Friday night, a really special Friday night. This is from my wife. The Neshama Minyan, which is our women's minyan, to which men are invited, every year does a Friday night in cooperation with a wonderful group of actors called the Jewish Women's Theater. It's a beautiful service. And Nina, the Neshama Minyan, we take the monologues of the Jewish Women's Theater and intersperse the prayers and music around them. This year, the monologues of the Jewish Women's Theater will be all about the Sephardic experience. It's about salsa and simcha or something like that. It's a beautiful show. So the actors of the Women's Theater come and they bring us these beautiful monologues, and the prayer service, the music at 7:30 on Friday night. Everybody's invited, and of course next Shabbos morning, we open the book again to confront the most sophisticated of all the brothers' stories, which is the story of Joseph. Have a very good Shabbat and a lovely holiday. Thank you all. Thank you. Mazel tov, you guys. Are you feeling good? Is he nice to you? Can I say thank you for that gift you sent me a long time ago and I forgot to say thank you for it? You sent me a beautiful gift. Bro, take care. Be well. It was just so beautiful.